Well, one consumer group says game makers may be misleading parents when they say a tablet or smartphone app will make the kids smarter. Dr. Pete Stavino of Children's Medical Center in Dallas with us. You're not a big fan of screen time for especially the very young children.
Especially the very young children. I mean, that's just such a slippery slope that they're going to become so interested in these things which are legitimately engaging. I mean, they're very stimulating things. They're really going to draw kids in. But then later, when you try to pry that child away, it's really going to be hard.
This group filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission saying that a couple of the manufacturers in particular should be banned from selling these products and making claims to parents that they're going to make the kids smarter. Should it be up to the government to ban this, or should parents have enough common sense to say, okay, in short doses, you get 5 minutes with the screen?
Right. I mean, especially in infants, to where some of these things are being marketed, I hope that parents will have the common sense to realize that really no dose of screen time at that age is appropriate. Because I think the seduction in this is that somehow this is a shortcut to your child learning their ABCs or learning body parts or, learning some bits of information. But what parents need to realize is that the critical component to learning during infancy is really about socialization. It's not about learning to read a little bit earlier than somebody else. There's really no long-term benefit of that. Or if they know where their nose is a little bit earlier than their peer, that's not a big benefit. But it's that interaction, that ability to sort of cope with socialization, frustration, happiness, joy. That's really what infants need to be learning.
In the most extreme cases, when the kids get a little bit older and they haven't been properly socialized, they don't know how to interact with humans, what do you see? What is the long-term downside for a kid who doesn't know how to interact with other humans?
I mean, there's huge social issues in terms of just relationship building. They fail to get good relationships. They have a hard time maintaining relationships. Academic achievement in these kids is lower. Job attainment is going to be lower. Relationships, long-term, just the stability of relationships is going to be more difficult for them. Likely, I mean, I don't know that studies have looked at this, but likely a less satisfying life in general. I mean, there's really a lot of downsides.
What is the difference? Generations were raised, though, on Sesame Street. What is the difference between having your child learn ABCs and 1, 2, 3 on Sesame Street and doing it on an interactive video screen? At least there's some interaction.
Well, my stance would be that they shouldn't be learning it from Sesame Street either. They can have some time with Sesame Street as they get older, and that can reinforce some of these things. But parents, teachers should not be relying on television, screens, interactive apps, whatever it may be. That should not be the primary source of this sort of information. Those things can be really helpful later as kids get older and they're having to practice and reinforce concepts and skills that they've learned in the classroom, that they learn from others. They need to repeat it a lot of times. They can be really helpful then. But I think that sometimes it's awfully seductive to kind of get into this too early, too much. And I think parents need to realize that what that's doing is it's taking the place of that social learning and that aspect of it that's just essential during early childhood.
Right. And in defense, one of the game makers says in response that it agrees that electronics is no substitute for human interaction, and they assume that adults are using the games with children, and that would be okay.
Yeah,
if that's the case.